I'm Major Catherine Miller, 38 years old, and I built my career in the Air Force through years of demanding deployments and classified operations most people will never hear about. For years, I backed up my family, covering, supporting, staying silent about the sacrifices I made. But when my own sister laughed at a family gathering, calling me nothing more than a boring secretary, I made a choice that changed everything. Have you ever been dismissed or underestimated by the very people you've given everything to? If so, share your story in the comments. You're not alone. Before I get into what happened, let me know where you're tuning in from. And if you've ever had to stand tall after being written off, hit like and subscribe for more true stories about boundaries and reclaiming respect. What happened next might surprise you. The next family gathering was my nephew's birthday party. My brother, our middle sibling, Mark, had a 6-year-old son who loved dinosaurs, and the party was at one of those indoor play places with slides and ball pits and screaming children everywhere. I almost declined. Spending 2 hours in sensory overload while Rachel made comments sounded like my personal nightmare. But I went. Because I decided to stop hiding, and hiding included avoiding family events out of fear. Rachel arrived late, making an entrance even at a children's birthday party. She had shopping bags from expensive stores, her gift clearly meant to outdo everyone else's. Jonathan wasn't with her deployment, she explained breezily, some fleet exercise in the Mediterranean. She seemed unbothered, almost pleased to be there without him, free to command attention on her own. I was sitting at a table with my parents and Mark's wife when Rachel found me. "Kath, I didn't think you'd make it. Aren't you usually off doing whatever it is you do?" There it was. Not even 5 minutes in. "I'm here," I said evenly. She sat down across from me, arranging her shopping bags like props. "Jonathan's deployed right now. Real deployment, not the kind where you just go to an office in another country." She laughed. "No offense." My mom glanced at me nervously. She could sense the edge in Rachel's tone, even if she didn't understand why. "None taken," I said. "I mean, his deployments are intense. He's commanding a whole carrier group. The responsibility is insane. I barely sleep when he's gone, worrying about him." "I'm sure," I said. Rachel leaned back, warming to her theme. "It's so different from administrative work, you know? When you're actually leading people in real situations, the stakes are just higher." My dad cleared his throat. "Rachel, honey, I'm sure Catherine's work is important too." "Oh, totally," Rachel interrupted, waving her hand. "I didn't mean it wasn't important. Filing and coordination is definitely necessary. I just mean it's different. Less stressful, probably. Which is good. Not everyone can handle the pressure Jonathan deals with." Mark's wife excused herself to check on the kids. My mom followed quickly. My dad stayed, looking increasingly uncomfortable, but I knew he wouldn't intervene. He'd never been good at confrontation. I looked at Rachel across the table. Really looked at her. She was enjoying this. She'd built an identity around being the successful sister, the one married to someone important, and she needed me to stay in my assigned role, the lesser one, the boring one, for that identity to work. And for years, I'd played along. "Rachel," I said quietly, "do you actually know what I do?" She blinked, surprised by the question. "You work for the government. Some kind of administrative role with the Air Force. That's what you've decided I do. Well, you won't tell me anything else. What am I supposed to think? You could assume I can't talk about it because it's classified." She rolled her eyes. "Everything's classified with you. That's just an excuse to sound mysterious." My dad stood up. "I'm going to check on the cake," he said, escaping. Rachel watched him go, then turned back to me. "Look, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying, there's nothing wrong with having a regular job. Not everyone needs to be special forces or whatever. Someone has to keep the bureaucracy running." "Special forces," I repeated. "You know what I mean. Frontline stuff. Important stuff." I could have ended it there. Could have let it drop, stayed quiet, maintained the status quo. But something had crystallized in me over the past weeks. I was tired of being dismissed. Tired of protecting her from reality. Tired of being invisible. "Rachel, what if you're wrong?" She frowned. "Wrong about what?" "About what I do. About who I am. What if everything you've assumed is completely wrong? She laughed nervously. I mean, if you did something interesting, you'd tell me, right? We're sisters. I can't tell you. That's the point. But you've taken my silence and turned it into proof that I'm boring. Well, what else am I supposed to think? You disappear for months, come back, won't say where you've been or what you did. You don't have exciting stories like Jonathan does. You don't get promoted or decorated publicly. From the outside, it just looks like, I don't know, a regular office job with travel. From the outside, I said slowly, a lot of things look different than they are. Okay, so tell me I'm wrong. Tell me you're doing something amazing and important, and I just don't know about it. I can't. Then how is that my fault? You won't defend yourself, so yeah, I'm going to assume it's not that big of a deal. There it was. The logic she'd used to justify years of dismissiveness. I won't tell her, therefore there's nothing to tell. My silence equals insignificance. Rachel, I have clearances you can't imagine. I work with assets Jonathan probably doesn't even know exist. The operations I coordinate, I stopped myself. I was getting too close to lines I couldn't cross. Rachel was staring at me, half skeptical, half curious. What operations? I can't tell you. So again, you're just asking me to believe you're super important without any proof. That's not how it works, Catherine. Actually, that's exactly how classified work works. You trust the clearance system. You trust that people with access have it for a reason. Jonathan has clearances. He tells me things. No, he doesn't. He tells you what he can tell you, which is a tiny fraction of what he knows. The rest he keeps classified, just like I do. But his job is obviously important. He commands ships. He gives orders that matter. What do you do? Really? I looked at my sister, my younger sister, who I'd protected and supported and loved for her entire life, and realized she genuinely couldn't conceive of me being more important than her husband. The framework of her world didn't allow for it. She decided who I was years ago, and no amount of vague pushback would change her mind. Only proof would change her mind. And I couldn't provide proof without violating federal law. So I did something different. I stopped arguing. You're right, I said. I can't prove anything to you. So believe what you want. She looked almost disappointed, like she'd wanted me to keep fighting. I'm not trying to be mean, Kath. I know. I just think you're too sensitive about your job. It's fine to be regular. Not everyone needs to be extraordinary. Sure. Are you mad at me? I thought about that. Was I mad? Or just done? No, I said finally. I'm not mad. But I wasn't the same either. Something had shifted permanently. I'd stopped trying to make her see me. I'd stopped caring whether she respected me. And that indifference felt like freedom. The party continued around us. Kids screamed and laughed. Cake was served. Presents were opened. Rachel moved on to other conversations, satisfied that she'd won whatever competition existed in her head. I stayed quiet, present but distant, and noticed something interesting. Without my reaction, her comments had no power. She'd been feeding off my discomfort, using it to prop herself up. Once I stopped giving her that, she lost interest. I left early, claiming work the next morning. Rachel hugged me goodbye, already chatting with someone else, and I drove home with a strange sense of calm. I'd tried to reach her, tried to make her understand. She'd refused. And now I could let go of the need for her approval. But the universe had other plans. 2 weeks later, I got called into an unexpected briefing. Joint operations, high-level coordination required, multiple branches represented. I walked into the conference room and saw Jonathan Pierce sitting at the head of the table. This time, he was leading the meeting. And this time, sitting down, reviewing my materials, I noticed him glance at my name placard. Saw his eyes flicker with something recognition? Confusion? Then dismiss it. Surely not the same Miller. Surely just coincidence. The meeting started. The lead intelligence officer, my counterpart, someone I'd worked with for years, began the briefing. This operation requires unprecedented coordination between naval assets, Air Force special operations, and embedded intelligence units. Major Miller will be coordinating all air and ground elements. Her call sign for this operation is Phantom 6. The room went still. Not silent, There was still ambient noise, shuffling papers, someone's pen clicking, but energetically, everything stopped. Jonathan's head snapped up. He looked at me directly for the first time, really looked, and I watched his face cycle through confusion, disbelief, recognition, and something that might have been horror. "Major Miller," he said slowly. "Catherine Miller?" "Yes, sir." "You're Phantom 6? "Yes, sir." The other officers in the room were watching now, sensing something happening but not understanding what. The intelligence officer glanced between us, uncertain whether to continue. Jonathan set down his pen very carefully. His face had gone pale. "How long have you held that call sign?" "For years, sir." "And before that?" "Various operational roles. I've been in special operations for 7 years total." He sat back in his chair, and I watched him piece it together. Every family gathering where he'd ignored me. Every dismissive comment Rachel had made while he smiled and said nothing. Every time they'd treated me like irrelevant background noise. And now he was in a briefing room being told that the boring secretary was the officer coordinating an operation he'd been called in to support. That his clearance, impressive as it was, didn't reach as high as mine in certain critical areas. That the woman he'd barely acknowledged was someone his own colleagues treated with respect. "I didn't know," he said finally, and it wasn't clear if he was talking to me or himself. "No, sir. Most people don't." The meeting continued, but something had broken. Jonathan asked questions, but his usual confidence was shaken. He kept glancing at me like I was a puzzle he couldn't solve. How had he missed this? How had they all missed this? When the meeting ended, he approached me before I could leave. "Major Miller, Catherine, I need to apologize." "That's not necessary, sir." "It absolutely is. Rachel has been." He stopped, struggling to find words. "We didn't understand." "I know. Why didn't you say something?" "I'm not allowed to say something. And, even if I could, I shouldn't have to defend my work to my own family." He flinched. "That's fair. That's more than fair. Jesus, Phantom 6. Do you know what that means to people in my position? I've read mission reports with your call sign on them. I've seen your operational summaries. And I had no idea it was you. That's how it's supposed to work. Rachel is going to." He trailed off, realizing the implications. "Rachel doesn't need to know. She should know. She should have known all along. What she needs to know is between you and her, sir. I'm not asking for anything. But I deserve to do my job without it becoming family drama. That's all I've ever wanted." He nodded slowly, processing. Then, almost unconsciously, he straightened slightly. Not quite coming to attention, but close. A sign of respect he'd never shown me before. "It's an honor working with you, Major." "Thank you, sir." I left the building and drove home, knowing that whatever happened next was out of my hands. Jonathan knew. Jonathan would tell Rachel, or he wouldn't. Rachel would react, or she wouldn't. The family dynamic would shift, or it wouldn't. But for the first time in years, I didn't care which way it went. I'd stopped being invisible. And that was enough. The confrontation came 3 days later, but not the way I expected. I was home on a rare weekday afternoon, catching up on laundry and meal prep, when my doorbell rang. Through the peephole I saw Rachel standing on my porch, alone, her arms crossed tight across her chest. She looked smaller than usual, diminished somehow, and for a moment I considered not answering. But that felt cowardly, and I was done with hiding. I opened the door. "We need to talk," she said. "Okay." She pushed past me into the apartment, barely waiting for an invitation, and stood in my living room like she didn't know what to do with herself. I closed the door and waited. "Jonathan told me," she said finally, not looking at me. "About the meeting. About what you actually do." "Okay. Phantom 6. She said it like the words tasted strange. "That's you." "Yes." "For 4 years." "Yes." "And before that, you were doing other classified operations work." "Yes." She turned to face me then, and I saw she'd been crying. Her eyes were red, mascara smudged. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I legally can't tell you." "You could have told me something." "You could have." "I don't know, made me understand it was important." "I tried." "You didn't want to hear it." "No, you let me make a fool of myself." Her voice was rising now, anger replacing whatever vulnerability had been there. You let me go on and on about how boring your job was, how you were just a secretary, and you never once stopped me. Rachel, I tried to tell you when. When did you try? At the birthday party. 2 weeks ago. I asked if you actually knew what I did, and you said I was just making excuses to sound mysterious. She faltered slightly, remembering. You could have been more direct. More direct how? By violating federal law? By compromising operational security? By breaking the trust of everyone I work with just so you'd stop mocking me at family dinners. That's not fair. Isn't it? Because from where I'm standing, you decided years ago that I wasn't important enough to take seriously, and nothing I said would have changed your mind without proof I'm not allowed to give. She sat down heavily on my couch, all the fight draining out of her. Jonathan can't even look at me. Do you know how humiliating this is? He was at a meeting where everyone treated you like someone who matters. And he came home and had to tell me that his wife's boring secretary sister is actually someone he has to salute. He doesn't have to salute me. We're different branches. You know what I mean. She put her face in her hands. I've been such an idiot. I stood there, arms folded, waiting to feel vindicated. Waiting for the rush of satisfaction that should come with being proven right. But all I felt was tired. Rachel, I didn't want this. I never wanted to embarrass you or make you feel small. I just wanted you to stop treating me like I was nothing. I didn't treat you like nothing. Yes, you did. For years. Every family gathering, every phone call, every time you introduced me to someone, you made me into a punchline. The safe sister. The boring one. The one whose work doesn't matter. I didn't know, you didn't ask. That's the problem. You made assumptions and then you used those assumptions to build yourself up. You needed me to be less than you so you could feel important. She looked up at me, eyes flashing. That's not true. Isn't it? Be honest. When you married Jonathan, you suddenly had status. You were the Admiral's wife. And that was great for you. But you needed someone to compare yourself to, someone who made your success look bigger. And I was right there, conveniently silent about my work, easy to diminish. God, you make me sound like a monster. You're not a monster. You're insecure. You always have been. You need constant validation, constant proof that you matter. And I stopped providing that validation, so you decided I didn't matter instead. She was crying again, but I couldn't tell if it was genuine remorse or just anger at being caught. Maybe both. What do you want from me? She asked. You want me to apologize? Fine. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't know you were some kind of secret operative or whatever. I'm sorry I made jokes. I'm sorry I underestimated you. I don't want an apology you don't mean. I mean it. Do you? Or are you just sorry you got caught? Sorry that Jonathan knows? Sorry that you look stupid instead of me. That's cruel. It's honest. Look, Rachel, I know you feel embarrassed right now. I know Jonathan told you and it changed how you see things. But here's what I need you to understand. I didn't tell Jonathan. I didn't orchestrate some dramatic reveal to humiliate you. He found out because we work in the same world and eventually paths cross. That's it. I wasn't trying to prove anything. Then why do I feel so awful? Because you've been treating me like garbage for years and now you know I didn't deserve it. That's guilt, Rachel. That's what happens when you realize you've been wrong about someone. She wiped her face with her sleeve, like a child. I didn't know you felt that way. I thought we were close. I thought we were just joking around. When one person is always the punchline, that's not joking around. That's bullying. I wasn't bullying you. What would you call it? She didn't answer. We sat there in silence, my living room suddenly too small for everything between us. Years of resentment, misconceptions, hurt feelings, all of it piled up in the space between the couch and the chair. Finally, Rachel spoke, her voice small. What happens now? I don't know. Do you hate me? I thought about it. Did I? Hate was such a strong word, but indifference might be worse. No, I said finally. I don't hate you. But I don't trust you either. And I'm not interested in pretending everything's fine just because you finally know the truth. So what, we're just done? We stopped being sisters. We stopped being the sisters we were pretending to be. Maybe we figure out how to be different sisters. Ones who actually respect each other. I do respect you. You respect Phantom 6. You respect the call sign and the clearance and whatever Jonathan told you about the work. But do you respect me, Catherine? The person who's been right here the whole time. She opened her mouth. Closed it. Couldn't answer. That's what I thought, I said quietly. She stood up, grabbing her purse, movements jerky and defensive. I should go. Probably. At the door, she paused. For what it's worth, I am sorry. Even if you don't believe me. I believe you're sorry. I just don't know if you're sorry enough to actually change. She left without responding, and I watched through the window as she got in her car and sat there for a long moment before driving away. The apartment felt too quiet after she left. I finished folding laundry, made dinner, went through the motions of a normal evening, but my mind was churning. I'd wanted her to know. For years, I'd fantasized about moments like this. Rachel finding out, Rachel realizing she'd been wrong, Rachel apologizing. But now that it had happened, I just felt hollow. Because the apology didn't fix anything. It didn't erase years of dismissiveness. It didn't rebuild trust or respect. It was just words, motivated more by embarrassment than genuine remorse. My phone buzzed. A text from my mom. Rachel called me very upset. What happened? I typed back. She found out what I actually do for work. We talked. It's complicated. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, do I need to do anything? No, Mom. We're adults. We'll figure it out. I always thought she was proud of you. I stared at that message for a long time before responding. Maybe she was, in her own way. Just not the way I needed. Love you, sweetheart. Love you too. I set the phone down and realized I'd been holding my breath. This was the fallout I'd avoided for years by staying silent. Family tension. Hurt feelings. Complicated dynamics that couldn't be fixed with a single conversation. Part of me wondered if it had been worth it, speaking up, pushing back, letting the truth surface. But then I remembered the alternative. Years more of mockery, of being invisible, of watching Jonathan treat me like irrelevant furniture while Rachel built her identity on my supposed mediocrity. No. This was better. Painful, but better. The phone rang. Jonathan this time. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Major Miller, he said formally, then caught himself. Catherine. I apologize for calling after hours. It's fine. What do you need? I wanted to apologize again. And to let you know that Rachel she's struggling with this. She feels terrible. I know. She was just here. Oh. A pause. How did that go? About as well as you'd expect. I've tried to explain to her that your work is not just important, but critical. That people at my level consult with people at your level constantly. That you're not just some paper pusher, but actually Admiral. I appreciate that, but this isn't about convincing her I'm important. This is about her needing to have respected me regardless of what I do. Silence on the other end. Then, that's fair. That's absolutely fair. She needed me to be less than her so she could feel successful. And I enabled that by staying quiet. We both have things to work on. She loves you. She really does. I know. That's what makes it complicated. Another pause. I'm going to be more careful going forward. About assumptions. About who might be in the room that I'm not taking seriously. That's good. Not just with me. With everyone. Agreed. He sounded genuinely chastened. For what it's worth, the team you coordinated on Operation Clearwater did exceptional work. I didn't know to credit you at the time, but I should have. The precision was remarkable. Thank you, sir. Jonathan is fine. We're family. Maybe eventually. He laughed, but it sounded sad. Yeah, maybe eventually. After he hung up, I sat in the gathering darkness of my apartment and realized something. This wasn't resolution. This was just the beginning of whatever came next. Rachel would have to decide if she could respect me without needing to diminish me. Jonathan would have to recalibrate how he saw me. My parents would have to navigate their daughters having a fractured relationship. And I would have to decide how much grace I was willing to extend, how much patience I had left for people who'd shown me so little. I didn't have those answers yet. But I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't going back to being invisible. Whatever relationship Rachel and I built from here, if we built anything at all, it would have to include the real me. All of me. Phantom 6 included. The weeks after were strange. Careful. Like everyone in the family was navigating a minefield they couldn't quite see. Rachel didn't call. She sent texts brief, awkward things that felt like she was reaching out without actually saying anything meaningful. Hope work is going well. Mom said you might come to dinner next week. Saw an article about Air Force operations and thought of you. Each one felt like a probe, testing whether I was still angry, whether she was forgiven, whether things could go back to normal. I responded politely but didn't offer more than she asked for. I wasn't freezing her out deliberately. I just had nothing to say that wouldn't restart the same conversation we'd already had. My mom tried to mediate without mediating. You know your sister feels terrible, she'd say carefully during phone calls. I know she said some hurtful things, but she's trying. I know, Mom. She's always looked up to you. Even when you two were fighting as kids, she wanted to be like you. That was a long time ago. Still, she's your sister. That doesn't just disappear. No, it didn't. But it didn't mean everything was fixable either. My dad took a different approach. Whatever happened between you and Rachel, that's between you two, he said during a rare phone call where my mom wasn't hovering in the background. But I want you to know I'm proud of you. Always have been. Don't need to know the details to know you're doing good work. That one almost broke me. Thanks, Dad. Your mother worries. She wants everyone to be happy and get along. But I told her Catherine's always been the strong one. She'll figure it out. I'm trying. That's all anyone can do. The real shift came at a family dinner 6 weeks after the confrontation. My mom had been carefully planning it for weeks, making sure to invite everyone, making sure the timing worked. Just a normal family dinner, she kept saying, like if she said it enough times it would become true. I almost bailed 3 times. Made excuses in my head, practiced the phone call where I'd apologize and say something came up. But ultimately I went. Because avoiding Rachel forever wasn't sustainable, and part of me was curious how she'd act now that the truth was out. She arrived late, without Jonathan this time. He was deployed again, something in the Pacific. She looked nervous, her usual confidence dialed down several notches. When she saw me in the living room, she froze for just a second before forcing a smile. Hey. My mom bustled between us with drinks and appetizers, talking too much, filling the silence with commentary about traffic and the weather and the pot roast she'd made. Rachel sat across from me, and for the first time in years, she didn't dominate the conversation. She was quiet, watching, almost deferential. It felt wrong. Mark arrived with his family, and the kids provided easy distraction, dinosaur updates from my nephew, my niece showing off her new dance moves. The adults laughed and applauded, and for a while it felt almost normal. But I could feel Rachel watching me, waiting for something. During dinner, my dad asked about my work in his usual vague way. Keeping busy? Always, I said. Must be interesting, all that coordination work. He said it carefully, like he'd been coached on the right words to use. It has its moments. Rachel spoke suddenly. Catherine's work is actually really important. I didn't understand that before, but it is. The table went quiet. My mom's fork paused halfway to her mouth. Mark glanced between us, confused. Okay, I said slowly. I mean it. Jonathan explained some of it, not the classified parts, but the general concept. What you do matters. I should have realized that sooner. She was trying. I could see her trying. But it felt performative, like she was saying what she thought she should say rather than what she actually felt. Thanks, I said neutrally. I'm serious. I was wrong about a lot of things. And I'm sorry. Rachel, we don't need to do this now. When else are we going to do it? You won't talk to me. You barely respond to my texts. So yeah, we need to do it now. My mom looked like she wanted to disappear into her pot roast. My dad cleared his throat uncomfortably. Mark was suddenly very interested in cutting his niece's meat into smaller pieces. Fine, I said. You're sorry. You've said that. But sorry doesn't erase years of you treating me like I was nothing. I know that. Do you? Because right now it feels like you're sorry you were wrong, not sorry you were cruel. There's a difference. Her face flushed. I wasn't cruel. I was ignorant. Those aren't the same thing. When your ignorance consistently makes someone else feel worthless, The intent stops mattering. So what? I'm just the villain forever. Nothing I say or do will ever be enough. I didn't say that. But you can't expect me to just forget everything because you suddenly know I'm not a secretary. I never said you were just a secretary. Yes, you did. Multiple times. You made it a running joke. I was teasing. No, you were diminishing me. And you enjoyed it. Mark finally intervened, his voice careful. Maybe we could take a break from this conversation? The kids are right here, and the kids are fine, Rachel snapped. Then, softer, to me, what do you want from me, Catherine? Tell me what I need to do to fix this. I set down my fork. I want you to respect me. Not because of what I do, not because Jonathan told you I'm important, but because I'm your sister and you should have respected me all along. I do respect you. Now. You respect me now. But what about next year, when the novelty wears off? What about when you meet someone else who seems more impressive and I'm back to being boring Catherine? Will you respect me then? She didn't answer. That's what I thought, I said quietly. The dinner continued awkwardly after that. My mom tried desperately to steer conversation toward safe topics. My dad told a long story about his golf game that no one listened to. The kids finished eating and ran off to play. Rachel stayed quiet, pushing food around her plate. When dinner ended, she caught me in the hallway while I was getting my coat. I do love you, she said. I know you don't believe that right now, but I do. I believe you love the idea of me. The sister you remember from when we were kids. I'm not sure you love who I actually am. That's not fair. Maybe not. But it's how I feel. She looked like she wanted to argue more, but instead she just nodded. Okay. I guess I have to earn it back. Your trust. Yeah, you do. Will you let me? Or have you already decided I'm not worth the effort? That stopped me. Had I decided that? Had I written her off completely? I don't know yet, I said honestly. Ask me in a few months. It wasn't the answer she wanted, but it was the truth. Over the following weeks, Rachel changed her approach. She stopped trying to have big, dramatic conversations and started showing up differently. Small things, easy to miss if you weren't paying attention. She stopped talking about Jonathan's work at every family gathering. Stopped making comparisons between his job and other people's jobs. When someone asked about me, she said, "Catherine's doing well," and left it at that. No commentary, no jokes. She sent me articles about things I'd mentioned being interested in, cybersecurity developments, geopolitical analysis, nothing classified, but things that showed she was listening. She didn't add commentary, just, "Thought you might find this interesting." When my birthday came around, she sent a gift, a nice leather portfolio with my initials embossed on it, and a card that said simply, "Proud of you." Always have been, even when I didn't show it well. I wanted to dismiss it as performative. Wanted to stay guarded and skeptical. But part of me recognized that she was trying in the only way she knew how. The real test came at Thanksgiving. Jonathan was back, and they arrived together. I watched him carefully. Would he treat me differently now? Would it be awkward? He shook my hand formally. "Catherine. Good to see you." "You too, Admiral." "Jonathan," he corrected. "We're family." Throughout the meal, I noticed small things. The way he included me in conversations naturally, not making a big show of it, but not ignoring me either. The way Rachel watched her words, catching herself before making casual comments that would have been dismissive before. The way they both seemed to have recalibrated, treating me like someone who deserved respect. It wasn't perfect. Old habits showed through sometimes, Rachel dominating conversation, Jonathan slipping into command mode. But they caught themselves. Adjusted. Tried. After dinner, Rachel found me in the kitchen helping with dishes. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For not giving up on me completely." "I know you could have. You probably should have." I dried a plate, considering my words. "You're my sister." That's not nothing. But it's also not enough by itself. You have to actually change, not just feel bad about who you were. I know. I'm trying. I can see that. Is it helping? The trying. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw something I hadn't seen in years. Vulnerability. Not the performative kind she used to get attention, but genuine uncertainty about whether she'd destroyed something irreparable. "Yeah," I said finally. "It's helping." She smiled, and it was the first real smile I'd seen from her in longer than I could remember. Not triumphant, not performative. Just relieved. We weren't fixed. We weren't back to being close the way we'd been as kids. But we were moving towards something new, something more honest. A relationship built on mutual respect rather than hierarchy, on truth rather than assumptions. It would take time. More conversations, more adjustments, more proof that the change was real and lasting. But for the first time in years, I believed it might actually be possible. 6 months after Jonathan's meeting, after Rachel's tearful visit, after the awkward family dinners and careful reconciliation attempts, I found myself sitting in my parents' backyard on an ordinary Saturday afternoon. No special occasion. Just my dad grilling chicken, my mom fussing over side dishes, the familiar rhythm of family time without the weight of expectation. Rachel was there with Jonathan. Mark and his family. A few cousins. Normal. Easy. I was talking with my dad about his tomato plants. He'd switched varieties this year and was excited about the results when I heard Rachel laugh. Not the performative laugh she used to command attention, but a genuine sound of delight at something Mark's daughter had said. I glanced over and caught her eye. She smiled at me, warm and uncomplicated, and I smiled back. It was such a small moment, barely worth noting, but it felt like confirmation of something shifting into place. Jonathan approached with 2 beers, offering me one. Mind if I join you? Course not. He settled into a lawn chair, and for a moment we just sat there, comfortable in the silence. My dad wandered off to check on the chicken, leaving us alone. Rachel talks about you differently now, Jonathan said eventually. She tells people you're in the Air Force doing specialized operations work. She doesn't pretend to know the details, but she says it with respect. Pride, even. I've noticed. She's terrified she's lost you permanently. She hasn't. But we're not the same sisters we were before. Is that a bad thing? I considered that. No, I don't think it is. We were playing roles before. The responsible older sister, the carefree younger one. Those roles stopped fitting years ago, but we kept performing them anyway. Now we're figuring out who we actually are to each other. That's mature of you. Or just realistic. You can't force closeness that isn't there. But you can build respect if both people are willing to try. He nodded slowly. I owe you an apology too. A real one, not just the quick one I gave after that meeting. Jonathan, no, let me say this. I dismissed you. For years. I saw you at family events and made assumptions based on Rachel's commentary, and I never questioned those assumptions. I never thought to look closer, to ask questions, to consider that maybe the quiet woman at the edge of the room was quiet for reasons that had nothing to do with being boring. You didn't know. I should have. I'm trained to notice things, to read situations, to understand that silence can mean many things. But with you, I just accepted the easy narrative. And that was lazy of me. Disrespectful. I took a sip of my beer, letting his words settle. You know what's funny? I never wanted you to know. I didn't need your approval or your respect. I was content being invisible in my own family because my work gave me everything I needed. But Rachel's mockery forced my hand. She made invisibility feel like erasure. She regrets that deeply. I know. And I'm trying to let her earn her way back. But trust takes time to rebuild. She's willing to put in the time. We sat quietly for a moment, watching the family mill around. Mark was pushing his kids on the swing set. My mom was arranging food on the picnic table. Rachel was helping, taking direction without trying to take over. Small things, but different from before. Can I ask you something? Jonathan said. And you can tell me it's none of my business. Go ahead. Do you like your work? Not the respect it brings or the importance of it, but the actual day-to-day of what you do. I thought about that. The long hours, the stress, the weight of decisions that affected lives. The satisfaction of operations executed flawlessly, of plans that worked, of threats neutralized. The bone-deep exhaustion and the adrenaline rush and the camaraderie with people who understood. Yes, I said simply. I love it. It's hard and sometimes it keeps me up at night, but I wouldn't trade it. That's good. That's important. Rachel worries now that you only stayed quiet about it to protect her feelings, that somehow she kept you from being proud of your work. She didn't keep me from anything. I made my own choices. The silence was professional necessity, not shame. I've told her that. Not sure she believes it yet. She will. Eventually. Rachel appeared then, carrying a plate of food she'd fixed for me without asking. You need to eat, she said, setting it down. You're too skinny. When's the last time you had a real meal? I eat. MREs don't count. She caught herself, glancing at Jonathan, then back to me. Sorry. Is that classified? Can I not mention MREs? I laughed to spite myself. MREs are not classified, Rachel. Okay, good. Because I worry about you eating nothing but military rations for months. She hovered uncertainly. Can I sit with you guys, or am I interrupting? Sit, I said, gesturing to the empty chair. She sat, and for a few minutes the three of us just existed together. No tension. No performance. Just family on a Saturday afternoon. I've been thinking about something, Rachel said carefully. And I want to run it by you. Okay. I've been reading about military families. Support groups, that kind of thing. And I realized I never asked what it's like for you, the deployments, the stress, the coming home, and readjusting. I just made assumptions about what your life was like based on nothing. It's fine, Rachel. No, it's not fine. You're my sister, and I've been treating you like a stranger. So I'm asking now, what's it like? What do you need from family when you're dealing with all of that? I looked at her surprised. This wasn't performative. This was genuine curiosity, genuine desire to understand. Honestly, I mostly need people to not make it harder. Don't make me defend my choices. Don't make me feel guilty for missing events. Don't act like my work is less important just because I can't talk about it. That's all stuff I did. Yeah, but you're asking now. That matters. I want to do better. Not just with you, but with understanding this whole world. Jonathan's been patient with me, but I know I've been the stereotypical military spouse who doesn't really get it. Jonathan shifted uncomfortably. You get it more than you think. I get the surface stuff. The ceremonies and the deployments and the lifestyle. But I don't get what it costs. What it takes. She looked at me. I didn't get that you were paying those costs too. Different costs. Different work. But yeah. So help me understand. Please. And right there, in my parents' backyard, with the smell of grilled chicken and the sound of kids playing, I started talking. Not about classified operations or specific missions, I'd never do that. But about what it felt like to come home after months away and have everything feel slightly wrong. About the hypervigilance that didn't shut off just because you were stateside. About the weight of decisions and the responsibility for lives and the quiet pride in work that would never be publicly acknowledged. Rachel listened. Really listened. Asked questions that showed she was trying to understand, not just waiting for her turn to talk. Jonathan added his own perspective, and I realized this was the first real conversation the three of us had ever had about the reality of military service. It wasn't comfortable. Parts of it were hard to articulate, harder to hear. But it was real. Honest. The kind of conversation that built understanding instead of assumptions. My mom called everyone to eat, and the conversation broke naturally. But as we moved toward the picnic table, Rachel touched my arm. Thank you, she said quietly, for trusting me with that. You asked. That's all I've wanted, for someone to ask instead of assume. I'll keep asking. Even when I don't understand the answers. That's enough. Dinner was chaotic in the best way, too much food, everyone talking over each other, kids making a mess, my dad telling the same stories he always told. I found myself relaxing into it, not guarding every word, not waiting for the next dismissive comment. At one point, one of my cousins asked what I'd been up to, and before I could answer, Rachel jumped in. Catherine just got back from a work trip. Can't talk about it, obviously, but she's been busy. She said it matter-of-factly, no hint of mockery or resentment. Just stating a fact. The cousin nodded, impressed. Must be interesting work. It is, I said simply, and Rachel smiled at me. Later, as people were starting to leave, I helped my mom clean up in the kitchen. She was washing dishes, and I was drying, the familiar rhythm of it soothing. You and Rachel seem better, she said carefully. We're working on it. I'm glad. I hated seeing you two so distant. She handed me a plate. Your father and I, we always knew you were doing important work, even if we didn't understand the details. I know, Mom. We worried, though, that maybe we hadn't supported you enough. That maybe you felt like you couldn't talk to us. It wasn't about support. It was about security protocols. I couldn't talk even if I wanted to, but we could have trusted you more. Could have assumed you were doing something meaningful instead of just wondering. You did trust me. You always have. She smiled, tearful suddenly. You were always the strong one. Even as a little girl, you just handled things. But strength doesn't mean you don't need people. I know. I'm learning that. Good. Because we're here. All of us. Even Rachel, now that she's pulled her head out of her, well, now that she understands better. I laughed. Mom. What? She was being ridiculous. I wanted to say something so many times, but your father said to stay out of it. Let you two work it out. Dad was right. I suppose. But it was hard watching. She handed me the last dish. I'm proud of you, sweetheart. So proud. Don't need to know what you do to know you're doing it well. That was the thing about family, I realized. The good ones believed in you even without evidence. They trusted that your silence meant something rather than nothing. And when they stumbled, when they made assumptions or said hurtful things, they were willing to learn and adjust. Rachel had stumbled badly. But she was adjusting. Learning. Trying to build something better than what we'd had. I drove home that evening thinking about how different this gathering had felt from the ones a year ago. No mockery. No dismissiveness. No feeling like I had to defend my existence. Just family, messy and imperfect, trying to understand each other. My phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. Thanks for today. For talking to me. For not giving up on us. I typed back, thanks for asking. For listening. For trying. 3 dots appeared, then, I'm going to keep trying. Even when it's hard. You're my sister. That has to mean something. It does, I wrote. It means everything. And I realized, sitting in my car in my apartment parking lot, that I meant it. She was my sister. That bond wasn't broken, just transformed. We weren't the same people we'd been as children, and we'd never be those sisters again. But we could be something new. Something built on honesty and respect and hard-won understanding. The work wasn't finished. Trust rebuilt slowly, and there would be setbacks, moments when old patterns resurfaced. But we'd started something real that day in my living room when I'd finally stopped protecting her from the truth. When I'd said, clearly and without apology, that her treatment of me was unacceptable. Service had taught me a lot of things. How to plan operations, coordinate assets, make decisions under pressure. But it had also taught me that silence, while sometimes necessary, could become its own kind of prison. That invisibility, while useful in the field, was corrosive to relationships. That respect couldn't be demanded, but it also couldn't be built without boundaries. I'd spent years being Phantom 6 in the field and Invisible Catherine at home. Now I was learning to be whole, the same person in both places, no longer splitting myself into acceptable pieces. It was harder than maintaining the split. Harder to be fully seen, fully known. But it was also freeing. I went upstairs to my apartment, changed into comfortable clothes, and settled in for the evening. Tomorrow I'd go back to work, back to operations and planning and the weight of decisions that mattered. But tonight, I was just Catherine. Sister, daughter, officer, woman. All of it, all at once. No longer hiding. No longer invisible. No longer willing to shrink myself to make others comfortable. Just me. Finally, honestly, completely me. And that was enough. 3 years later, I stood in a conference room at the Pentagon briefing a room full of senior officers on a joint operation that had taken 8 months to plan. Jonathan was there, sitting 2 seats down from a 3-star general, taking notes on a tablet. When I finished the briefing and opened the floor for questions, he raised his hand. Major Miller, can you clarify the contingency protocol if the primary extraction point is compromised? I walked him through it, detailed and precise, and he nodded with satisfaction. No awkwardness. No weight of family history. Just 2 professionals doing their jobs. After the meeting, as people filed out, he caught my eye and gave me a slight nod. Respect. Acknowledgement. Nothing more needed. I was packing up my materials when my phone buzzed. Rachel, dinner tonight? My place? I'm making that pasta you like. I smiled and typed back, what time? 7. Jonathan will be late, stuck at the Pentagon apparently. Some big briefing. I know. I was there. Oh. How'd it go? Good. He asked smart questions. He better. I've been coaching him on how not to be intimidated by brilliant women. I laughed out loud in the empty conference room. 3 years ago, Rachel wouldn't have said something like that. 3 years ago, she wouldn't have acknowledged that I might be brilliant, that anyone might be intimidated by me. The distance between then and now felt impossibly vast. I drove to their house that evening, a renovated colonial in Alexandria with a neat lawn and American flag by the front door. Rachel had embraced the officer's wife role completely, but differently now. Less about status, more about community. She volunteered with military family support groups, organized care packages for deployed sailors, mentored younger spouses navigating the lifestyle. She'd found purpose in it. Real purpose, not just reflected glory. She answered the door in jeans and a flour-dusted apron, looking more relaxed than I'd seen her in years. You're early. Traffic was light. Perfect. You can help me with the salad. She pulled me into a hug that felt natural, easy. How was your week? I know you were traveling, but obviously you can't tell me where. Long good. I'm glad to be home. In the kitchen, we fell into a comfortable rhythm, her at the stove, me chopping vegetables, wine glasses within reach, music playing softly from a speaker. This had become our routine over the past year. Regular dinners, just the two of us or with Jonathan when he was available. Rebuilding the relationship not through grand gestures, but through consistent, mundane presence. Mom called me yesterday, Rachel said, stirring pasta sauce. She wants to plan a big family vacation this summer. Some beach house rental in the Outer Banks. That could be nice. Could you get the time off? I know your schedule is unpredictable. I can request it. No guarantees, but I'll try. She glanced at me. I won't take it personally if you can't make it. I know work comes first sometimes. Thanks for understanding that. I didn't always. She said it simply, a statement of fact rather than a self-flagellation. But I get it now. The work you do, it matters more than a beach vacation. Even if I wish I could see you more. I wish that too sometimes. We were quiet for a moment, both of us focused on our tasks. Then Rachel spoke again, her voice careful. Can I ask you something? And you can tell me if it's too much. Go ahead. Do you ever regret it? Choosing this career path? Missing so much of regular life, relationships, stability, all the normal things people have. I considered the question seriously. Did I? There were lonely nights in temporary housing overseas. Holidays missed. Relationships that couldn't survive the deployments and the secrecy. A life that looked nothing like what I'd imagined as a young woman joining up. No, I said finally. I don't regret it. This is who I am. This work, it fits me in a way nothing else would. But I won't pretend there isn't a cost. What's the hardest part? The secrecy, probably. Not being able to share what I'm proud of. Coming home from something significant and having to just sit with it alone. That sounds impossibly lonely. It can be. But there are people in my world who understand. Who carry the same weight. That helps. Rachel plated pasta, and we moved to the dining room. She'd set the table nicely, cloth napkins, candles, the good dishes. Small touches that showed she'd put thought into the evening. I'm seeing someone, I said suddenly, surprising myself. Rachel's fork froze halfway to her mouth. What? When? Who? Why am I just hearing about this now? Because it's new. And complicated. He's military too, different branch, different specialty. We met on a joint operation 6 months ago. 6 months. Rachel looked genuinely hurt. Catherine, that's not new. That's practically a relationship. Why didn't you tell me? Because I wasn't sure it would last. The distance, the schedules, the operational security, it's a lot to navigate. I didn't want to jinx it. But it's lasting? So far. We're figuring it out. Rachel set down her fork completely. Tell me about him. Everything. I want to know everything. So I told her. About Marcus, a Marine officer with a quiet intensity and a dry sense of humor that caught me off guard. About the way we'd started as professional colleagues and slowly realized there was something more. About the challenges of dating someone who understood operational demands, but also had his own that conflicted with mine. About the strange relief of being with someone who didn't need explanations, who got it intrinsically. "He sounds wonderful," Rachel said when I finished. "I want to meet him. Eventually. When things are more settled." "Does he know about us?" "About our history. Some of it. I told him we had a rough patch, but we're working through it." "That's diplomatic." She smiled. "You don't have to protect my reputation with him, you know. You can tell him I was awful to you." "You weren't awful. You were ignorant and hurtful." "There's a difference." "Barely." She took a sip of wine. "For what it's worth, I hope he's good to you. I hope he sees how remarkable you are." "He does." "Good. Because you deserve someone who sees you. Really sees you." The front door opened and Jonathan called out, "Sorry I'm late." That briefing ran long and then he stopped when he saw me. "Oh, Catherine." "Of course." Rachel mentioned dinner. "How'd the briefing actually go?" Rachel asked. "From your perspective?" Jonathan settled into his chair, accepting the plate Rachel had kept warm for him. "It was excellent. Thorough, well-organized, accounted for every contingency I could think of. Major Miller runs a tight operation." "She always has," Rachel said, and there was genuine pride in her voice. "Even when we were kids, she was the one with the plans and the backup plans." "That explains a lot," Jonathan said, smiling at me. "The precision makes more sense now." We talked through dinner about inconsequential things, renovations Rachel wanted to do on the house, a trip Jonathan had planned for them in the fall, Mark's kids, and their various activities. Easy conversation, comfortable silences. The kind of evening I'd stopped believing was possible with them. After dinner, Jonathan excused himself to take a call, and Rachel and I cleaned up together. She washed, I dried, the rhythm familiar now. "Thank you," she said quietly, hands deep in soapy water. "For what?" "For not giving up on me. On us. I know I didn't make it easy. You're my sister." "It was never about easy." "Still. A lot of people would have walked away. Written me off completely." "You had every right to." "I thought about it," I admitted. "Right after you came to my apartment that day. I thought maybe it would be simpler to just let the relationship fade. Stay cordial at family events, but nothing deeper." "What changed your mind?" "Honestly? Stubbornness. I didn't want to lose my sister because she'd been an idiot for a few years. I wanted her to do better. Be better. And I thought maybe she could. I'm trying. I know. I see it." She handed me a plate to dry. "I've been going to therapy." "Did I tell you that?" "No." "Yeah. For about a year now. Trying to figure out why I needed to tear you down to feel good about myself. Why I was so threatened by your success even though it had nothing to do with me. And what did you figure out? That I've always been insecure. Always needed external validation to feel worthy. You were always so self-contained, so sure of yourself, and it made me feel small. So I tried to make you smaller to even the playing field." "That's pretty insightful." "My therapist is good. Expensive, but good." She smiled wryly. "The military insurance helps." "I'm glad you're doing that work." "Me too. It's helped with Jonathan too. I was so focused on being the Admiral's wife, living up to this imaginary standard, that I forgot to just be Rachel. To figure out who I am separate from his accomplishments." "Who are you?" She thought about it. "I'm still figuring that out. But I'm someone who wants to help people. Someone who's good at organizing and bringing people together. Someone who's trying to be a better sister, a better wife, a better person." "That's a good start." We finished the dishes in comfortable silence. Jonathan returned and suggested a movie, but I begged off. Early morning, long day planned. They walked me to the door, and Rachel hugged me tight. "I love you," she said. "I don't say it enough, but I do. I love you too. Bring Marcus next time. I promise I'll be normal." "Your version of normal is terrifying, but okay." She laughed and pushed me gently toward my car. I drove home thinking about how far we'd come. The relationship wasn't what it had been when we were kids. That innocent closeness was gone, replaced by something more complicated, but also more honest. We'd both had to grow, change, meet each other as adults rather than the roles we'd played as children. It was better this way. Harder, but better. The next morning, I was at my desk early, reviewing intelligence reports, when my commanding officer stopped by. "Miller, got a minute?" "Of course, sir." Colonel Peterson closed the door and sat down. "I wanted to talk to you about a promotion." My stomach tightened. "Sir, you're being considered for lieutenant colonel. The board meets next month and your name's on the list. I wanted to give you a heads up." "I wasn't expecting that." "You should have been. Your performance reviews are exceptional. The operations you've coordinated have been textbook. You've got respect across branches, which is rare. This is well-deserved." "Thank you, sir." "There's something else. If the promotion goes through, there's a position opening up at SOCOM headquarters. Strategic planning and coordination role. More responsibility, higher clearance, direct access to command level. It would mean relocating to Tampa, but it's the kind of position that could define the rest of your career." Tampa. Across the country from my family, from Rachel, from the fragile rebuilt relationship that still needed tending. From Marcus, who was stationed at Camp Lejeune. Can I think about it? Of course. Nothing's definite yet anyway. But start considering what you want. This is a significant opportunity. After he left, I sat at my desk staring at nothing. A promotion I'd worked toward for years. A position that would challenge me, that would matter. Everything I'd sacrificed for, everything I'd built my career toward. But also, distance from the people I'd just learned how to be close to again. That evening, I called Marcus. He was in the field, but he called back during a break, his voice tired but warm. "Hey, everything okay?" "Yeah, just wanted to hear your voice." "Rough day. Complicated day. Got some news about a potential promotion." "That's great." "Isn't it?" "It is. It would come with a relocation though." Tampa. Silence on the other end. "Then, that's far." "I know. But it's also an incredible opportunity, I'm guessing. It could be career-defining. Then you have to take it. We just figured out how to make this work with you at Lejeune and me here." Tampa adds another layer. "We'll figure it out. This is what you've worked for, Catherine. You can't pass it up because of logistics. It's not just logistics. It's us. It's your career. Your life's work. I'm not going anywhere. We'll make it work, whatever it takes." I felt something in my chest loosen. "You're sure?" "I'm sure. Take the promotion. Move to Tampa. We'll figure out the rest." After we hung up, I called Rachel. She answered breathlessly. She'd been in the middle of a workout. "What's up?" "I might be moving to Tampa." "What? Why? When?" I explained about the promotion, the position, the opportunity. She was quiet for a long moment. "Well, that's amazing," she said finally. "Congratulations." "Thanks. You don't sound excited." "I am. I'm just also thinking about logistics. I'd be far from everyone. We'll visit. You'll come home. It's not like you're moving to Antarctica." "I know. It just feels like we just got to a good place and now I'm leaving." "Catherine." Her voice was firm. "You're not leaving me. You're advancing your career. Those are completely different things. I'm not going to guilt you or make this about me. This is about you and what you've earned." "You're sure?" "Positive. Besides, I've always wanted to visit Tampa. Jonathan and I can come down, make a vacation out of it. Maybe you can give us a tour of MacDill." "Oh wait, probably not because it's all classified, right?" I laughed to spite myself. "Some of it I could show you." "Good enough. Seriously, Kath, don't let our relationship hold you back. We're solid now. We can handle distance." Okay, that's it." "Yeah, okay. I'll pursue it." "Good. I'm proud of you. Make sure you tell Mom and Dad. They'll want to celebrate." After I hung up, I sat in my apartment feeling the weight of the decision settle into certainty. This was the right move. The career I'd built, the sacrifices I'd made, the work I believed in, it all pointed toward this next step. The people I loved would adjust. We'd make it work. Because that's what family did when they were really family. They supported each other's growth even when it was inconvenient. A month later, the promotion came through. Lieutenant Colonel Catherine Miller. The ceremony was small, Just close colleagues, my commanding officer, a few people from other branches I'd worked with over the years. But my family was there. My parents, proud and tearful. Mark with his family. Rachel and Jonathan in the front row. When it was over and we were taking photos, Rachel pulled me aside. Look at you. Lieutenant Colonel. That's a big deal. It feels surreal. It's what you deserve. What you've always deserved. She paused. I'm sorry I couldn't see that before. Sorry I needed you to be small so I could feel big. We've been through this, Rach. It's done. I know. But I needed to say it again today. On this day. You're remarkable, Catherine. You always have been. I'm sorry it took me so long to admit it. You're here now. That's what matters. She hugged me tight, and I felt the last piece of resentment dissolve. She'd done the work. Changed. Shown up consistently. Proved that her apologies were backed by action. We were going to be okay. At the small reception afterward, Jonathan approached with a serious expression. Lieutenant Colonel. That has a nice ring to it. Thank you, Admiral. I heard about the Tampa position. SOCOM headquarters. News travels fast. It does in our world. That's significant placement. You'll be working with the best. That's the plan. Rachel told me she encouraged you to take it. That she didn't want you to hesitate because of family. She did. She's grown a lot. We both have. But especially her. He smiled. You've been good for her. Good for both of us, really. Kept us honest. I just stopped letting her walk over me. That's what I mean. You set boundaries. Demanded respect. It forced us both to examine our assumptions. I'm grateful for that, even if it was uncomfortable at the time. I'm glad something good came out of it. More than something. You've got family now who actually sees you. Who respects what you do and who you are. That's not nothing. No, it's not. The party wound down eventually. My parents left first, my mom making me promise to call every week from Tampa. Mark's family followed. Finally, it was just Rachel, Jonathan, and me. We should go, Rachel said. Let you get home and rest. Big week ahead. Yeah. She hugged me again. I'm really proud of you, Kath. I hope you know that. I do. And I'm sorry, Rachel. Stop. We're good. We're really, truly good. She smiled, tearful. Okay. We're good. I watched them drive away, then stood alone in the parking lot as the sun set, feeling the weight of the new rank on my shoulders. Lieutenant Colonel. A position at SOCOM. A career that had exceeded every expectation I'd had when I first joined. And a family that finally saw me. Not Phantom 6. Not the call sign or the clearance or the operations. Just me. Catherine. Sister, daughter, officer, woman. All of it visible. All of it valued. I'd spent so many years being invisible, thinking that was the cost of the work I'd chosen. But I'd been wrong. The work required operational invisibility, yes. But I didn't have to be invisible in my own life. Didn't have to accept dismissal from the people who should have known me best. Setting boundaries hadn't destroyed my family. It had saved it. And now, standing in an empty parking lot with a new rank and a new opportunity and a sister who'd finally learned to see me, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Complete. Not perfect. Not without complications or challenges ahead. But whole. Integrated. The same person in every part of my life. It had taken years to get here. Confrontation, pain, hard conversations, slow rebuilding. But it had been worth it. Every difficult moment. Every boundary set. Every time I'd refused to shrink myself. Worth it. I got in my car and drove home, already thinking about Tampa, about the work ahead, about the life I was building on my own terms. Visible. Valued. Victorious. Finally, completely, undeniably myself. Thanks for watching. Setting boundaries isn't about revenge, it's about respect. If this hit home, tap like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs the nudge. Tell me where you're watching from and your take below. Questions for you. Have you ever been written off by family? What did you do in that moment? Would you reveal your credentials, or stay silent and set a boundary? What's one sentence you'd say to a sibling who keeps minimizing you? If you were in my shoes at that party, what's your next move and why? What's a boundary you'll hold at your next family gathering?